Okay, good evening and welcome everyone. My name is Jim Ostrowski and I work in EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm glad to have you with us this evening. This is a public hearing to install a stream enclosure, riprap utility line without conduit sleeve and pump chamber impacting an unnamed stream and wetland in Leelanau County. Like I said, glad you could be here with us tonight. We've got right now about 20 people in attendance. We'll probably have a few more jump on as we get started. I am just going to go through a few housekeeping details before I get it started. The first thing I want to talk about, and a lot of you may have never been on an online meeting or a public hearing before with us here at EGLE, so I just want to run through how we run things. First, what we're going to do is introduce our panelists that are with us today here from EGLE. And then we're going to have basically two parts to our evening. The first part's going to be a short information session where one of our EGLE staff is going to run through the application and what was received. And then we're going to open it up for some general questions and some questions that you might have about the application or the process. And we'll do our best to answer those. At about 6:30, then what we're going to do is turn it into the actual official public hearing portion. So the first part's really Q&A, kind of informal. Then we're going to switch over to the more formal part where we actually take comments from you on this action, on this application. And that's where we're just going to be there listening to your comments that we'll have for the record. We won't be responding back. You'll just provide comments. So if there's something you want to comment on regarding this, that's the time you're going to do this. We'll also talk about other ways to submit an official comment if you don't feel comfortable doing it here with us tonight. And then we'll talk about who to contact for further information. Okay, so some details about what you're seeing in front of you in your screen. Just to let you know, at this time, all lines are muted, so you can hear us, but we can't hear you. We will open up the lines at certain times to, of course, take your comments verbally, and we'll let you know when that happens. But for right now, everyone is muted. If you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar. So if you look at your toolbar, you have a little Q&A box there. You click on that, and you can type your question into us, and that's one way you can ask a question. I'll also talk about how you can also raise your hand to ask a question as well if you want to make that question verbal. We are recording this public meeting, and we do with all our public meetings, and in a couple of days we'll post it up onto our YouTube channel. So if you know somebody that might have missed it and want to listen to it, it'll be up on our YouTube channel, and an email will go out to all of you with a link to that as soon as it's available. I also want to note that keep an eye on the chat. So if you look at the chat button, Joel Roseberry is here with me as well, and he's going to be putting in some details into the chat that you might want to check out, some links that you might find of interest. All right, so I'm going to introduce our EGLE staff today with us. So Robin and Joe, if you guys can turn on your cameras and say hi.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Joe Haas, District Supervisor with EGLE Water Resources Division, responsible for implementation of resource regulations, including Part 303, the Wetlands Protection Statute, and Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams. These are the two relevant statutes to tonight's hearing, as well as other environmental statutes that the resource programs with Water Resource Division oversee. Just want to thank you for taking the time to be here tonight, and I'll give it off to Robin.
Good evening. My name is Robin Schmidt. I'm the district representative covering Leelanau County for the Calic District Office, Water Resources Division, and I'll be the hearings officer for the public hearing once it begins.
All right, thanks, Joe and Robin. Okay, what I'm going to do now is let Robin, you can go ahead and go through and just kind of describe the application and whatever detail you want, and just let me know when you want to change the slides, and I'll do so.
Yeah, Jim, I noticed in the Q&A box that Chris Grobel, the consultant of record for Elizabeth Davis, would like to make a brief comment.
Okay, a comment about the project right now, or official comment later on? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can unmute him and ask him if he's wanting to present the
Chris,
project.
I see you there, and so Joel, I'll have you unmute Christopher Grobel. So are you there?
Yes, I am. I don't see myself on the screen, but I can see that I'm being heard.
Yes, we can hear you. So if
So
you want to,
in terms of, yeah, in terms of this project, I guess just a little preliminary introduction into why we are here tonight from the perspective of the landowner, Elizabeth Davis. Ms. Davis got a permit from the department EGLE back in December of 2018 to build a home on this property. And it was a very small structure, 700 square feet on pilings to be served by a boardwalk, a walkway down to the shoreline, a septic line out to the road where the septic holding tanks would be placed. And then lastly, and most importantly, a 20 by 10 fill pad up by Nanagosa Trail. So she got a permit from the state and then proceeded with her agents at the time. Apparently the septic permit had not been finally approved by the county. That approval came later in 2024, as I understand the situation. And 3 holding tanks, it was June of 2023. 3 holding tanks were approved up by the road by the county with the stipulation that there had to be maintained a 50-foot isolation distance between the stream on the property and that holding tank area. I was retained in August of 23 to try to figure out what this permit was lacking and going forward, what we needed to do to comply with all issues. The issues that at that time were not county issues, but entirely EGLE state issues that there were, after the fact of a permit issuance, concerns about septic system placement. So engaging with Robin, and we do this all the time. We work together all the time for decades. The question was, okay, how do we comply with the county septic requirements of a 50-foot isolation distance from any part of the septic system and this stream? So we met on site. We did a bunch of conversations online, text, face-to-face on site. And the notion was that we would extend the culvert that currently exists there 50 feet or 45 feet to comply with the isolation distance of a minimum of 50 feet for the county. And that was proposed and submitted and went through the process. And then it became apparent from EGLE's perspective on on-site meetings that a open bottom culvert, concrete culvert, and recessed 6 inches into the stream bed would be the preferred way to go rather than a closed culvert. So the permit was changed to reflect that requirement, and it was entirely driven by Robin, and Robin will speak to that, I hope. That was her mandate, if you will, from the state, and they had changed their perspective on culverts sometime recent to that decision. So that was proposed. So then we move into closer to the present when both the state and the county got cold feet about permits that they had issued. I can't speak to that. I would ask agents from both agencies to speak to that perspective as to why all of a sudden things changed. But from my perspective, politically, things changed, not just on this property, but across properties statewide. And all of a sudden, this was not a permittable project, despite the fact that both agencies had permitted it. From my perspective, we provided a solution to both agencies' requirements that was approved by both agencies. And then EGLE slow walked the overall permit for the project, and allowed it to expire before we had a conclusion to this issue. So it's very important for the public, the 20 or 30 or whatever number are going to speak to this later, and I'll listen to every word of it, that we had a permit in place. And that permit was then modified through subsequent reconsiderations. The permit was
Hey,
for
Christopher, I'm gonna have
construction
to
of
ask you to
a
kind of wrap it up
home.
here for a minute, in a minute.
Yep, wrapping it up right now, man. The permit was to construct a home, but the only matter in front of this consideration in the public hearing is the septic permit. There were 2 permit applications. This is only about the septic application. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Christopher. And can you just restate again where you're from, or who you represent, or what company you're with? Christopher, if you want to unmute yourself and just let us know, that make sure people know.
Okay, somebody just muted me. Christopher Grobel, Environmental and Planning Associates.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll have Robin come back on then. Robin, you there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You can go ahead and start whenever.
Okay, I just have a couple slides here for the application. This is just a map to the location on South Nanagosa or Nor Drive. Next slide. This is a copy of the site plan submitted for the project. If you go to the next slide, Jim. This is a little bit enlarged view of that plan. It shows for the left-hand side, starting at the road, a 45-foot long enclosure, which would be an open bottom box culvert. It also includes a utility line installation using a sleeve under the stream, directional board. There's also a proposal to place riprap at the corner of the stream as it discharges out of the enclosure. There's a bend in the stream. And there's was clarification, if you go to the next slide, Jim. This is a cross sections. These are the cross sections for the proposal. The top one is a longitudinal view of the 45-foot long enclosure, and then a cross section view below of the 3-foot diameter open bottom box culvert. Go to the next slide, Jim. And this is showing the updated plan that they provided regarding the location of the pump chamber, located on the west side of the residence and the wetland, with fill associated with it, 5 foot by I think 10 feet in the cross section view. Oh, sorry, down here, 10, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 22 foot wide fill area by the house. I believe that's the last slide for the project. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. And just want to let people know that I'm going to have Joel put in the chat a link to the documents where you can access the application documents directly from our My Enviro system. That's where we store all the information. That's also where we go to make comments as well. So he's going to be dropping that into the chat in just a moment. Right now, we're going to open it up for questions. I'll have Joe and Robin come back on. So if you want to ask a question tonight, we're going to give it about 15 minutes or so for Q&A before we start the official public hearing. You can, again, type your question in the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar. You can hit the raise hand icon on your Zoom toolbar. That'll let us know you want to actually speak, and we'll unmute your line. We do have someone on the phone today with us. So if you're on the phone and you want to make a comment or ask a question, you can hit #2. Hit #2, and that'll show us that your hand is raised, and we will call you by your last couple digits of your phone number. All right, so that's how you ask a question, and I'm going to go to my Q&A box to see if we have any in there. And looks like we do have one question in there. I'll just read it as it comes in. It said, the permit form said no to whether a professional wetland delineation has occurred. Will that happen?
Yes, I can answer that. The application is for the stream enclosure and all the other projects I just mentioned. So the delineation is being used from the original application. EGLE's going to review that because it's been a number of years. I was on site last week to start that process. So EGLE's going to be reviewing for the wetland boundaries on the site.
Okay, thanks, Rob. There's no other questions in our question box, so I'll give it a second here. And if you have a question, you can also raise your hand. Oh, one popped up and then went away. Oh, I think, Janina, if you're trying to ask a question, your hand keeps going up and down. So if you want to ask a question, you can hit raise your hand again, and I can unmute you. Okay, a couple more come in the inbox here. Will wetland delineation have any potential impact? I'm assuming impact on the approval of the application or whatever it may be.
Yes, we need to reevaluate the wetland delineation just because, like I said, it's been a number of years. When we do, the state of Michigan does a wetland delineation, we only stand by those delineations for 2 to 3 years, I believe is the time frame. So I think it's appropriate to do another evaluation and just make sure that we understand where all of the proposed projects are occurring and whether they're going to occur in wetland.
Okay. Next question, is it accurate to characterize this current consideration as restricted to the septic system only?
No, the department would evaluate it as a project as the whole, right? Because the septic system is to support the building on the property. So it's all viewed together as an entire project. The application for the septic came in because the permit for the original house layout was still valid. And then unfortunately through the processing timeframes, the original permit expired. We had talked about this a little bit with the applicant, that they were aware of the pending expiration of the original permit. So now we're in a situation where the septic application is being reviewed. And then if they choose to reapply for the original project, we'll have both parts put together, the septic system and the house proposed in that one, or at least shown in that one.
Okay. Okay, this next person's got some questions about the documents that were submitted. Saying these are all hand sketches. These ones you just showed up on the screen. The dimensions are all approximate as I can see. There is no credible survey of drainage slopes or groundwater level. Also, the culvert in high flow periods will not be sufficient and the flow will expand beyond the culvert.
Yeah, I have appreciated reading the comments regarding the discharge of stormwater flows across the property, and as they relate to the existing culverts and sizing of those culverts. So that's been helpful information. Yes, so the applicants can provide hand sketches as long as they're dimensioned accordingly, and we can figure out from those dimensions where the projects are proposed in relation to the property lines. At my site inspection last week, I did take GPS unit with me, and I hope to create a map of the stream, the wetland boundaries, the upland areas, so we can have something a little bit more tangible to put those dimensional projects, overlay those dimensional projects onto that plan.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Robin. I do see couple people maybe flashing their hands up and down. So I don't know if you have a question or not. So your hand is not raised if you think your hand's raised. So if you want to raise your hand, all you do is click that hand raise button once and just leave it there, and that'll show me that it's raised, and then we'll put it down for you. Okay. Would the stream then be enclosed? How much damage to the wetland will be created by putting in the enclosure and the septic system? Trees down, area dug out more? Like, what would you expect?
Yes, so taking it question by question, with the stream then being closed, if the project were permitted, then yes, that's 45 feet of additional stream would be enclosed. meaning that it wouldn't be daylight. You couldn't see it from just observing it. It would be inside of an enclosure. Also, how much damage to the wetland would be created by putting in the enclosure. So Water Resource Division asked a couple different times to clarify if any fill was proposed over top of the stream enclosure. The information and responses we got back is that no fill was proposed over top of the enclosure. So there would be secondary impacts from the stream enclosure, right? The stream would not be able to go up into the wetland floodplain, and there are some secondary adverse impacts with that if it was permitted. So that's all part of the things that we're reviewing for right now. Damage to the septic system, as shown on the plans for this project, would be in the upland area, which is in that northwest corner of the property. Trees cut down, I really can't address that. I would assume that the area that's upland right now is treed, so they would be removing those additional trees to work in that upland area. And yes, there would be excavation to install the septic tanks, as is my understanding with a typical tank installation.
Okay. All right, next question. Given that this property meets the criteria as a wetland, why did EGLE previously permit activity?
Right, so the statute allows for permits to be issued if the applicant can show that they've not created an adverse impact to the wetland, maximizing the use of the upland, using feasible prudent alternatives. So those were some of the considerations that we used to review the original application. So they have the septic in that northwest corner outside the wetland. No enclosure was even discussed at that time. Parking was in that upland area with a boardwalk over to a house that's on pilings in that upland that's near the top of the bluff. But some of it did extend into the wetland. So there were enough minimization and maximizing use of the upland on the property that a permit was authorized at that time.
Okay, and this is the last question in my queue here. It says Chris requested Robin allow the concrete culvert be deleted and return to the original design. When will Robin respond to this request? So when would you respond to this request?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the question, but
Yeah,
the applicant has proposed the project as shown at the first part of the Q&A here. And the department has till May 1st to make a decision on this pending application. And I guess I'd like to say that the department is aware that the Leelanau District Health Department has retracted their permit for this property, which makes our review more complex, given that the basic requirements for residential development are, a house, a well, a septic. And that will be taken into consideration of our review of this project, of this application that's pending.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a couple longer questions here, and I think Robin, you can probably see them too.
Okay.
This is kind of a question, but maybe more of a comment. So I'll take it kind of for what it is. It says, why hasn't EGLE taken into consideration the inappropriate distance from the holding tanks to the neighboring properties? The property owner has already blocked a neighboring stream that flowed into the adjacent property. They already down trees and semi-blocked an existing stream. Their handmade sketches and measurements are very misleading. They will not meet the distance required as location to its nearby property. So I guess the gist of it is why hasn't it taken into consideration inappropriate distances, holding tanks to neighboring properties?
Yeah, I don't mean to be dismissive, but that is a health department issue for us. If they're placed in the upland, which as was originally permitted, then EGLE would not be involved in the review. We're involved in the review now because there's an additional proposal to do an enclosure to try to meet that setback distance, but we're not involved with the setbacks from the property lines. I was made aware that there was concerns regarding impacts to stream flow or discharge, I should say, to the neighboring property. That was part of my review last week, and I still need to evaluate some of the information I collected before I feel comfortable commenting on that.
Okay, we got a few more minutes here. A couple more questions did come in. This person's asking a few questions. The first one was, I thought there was a subsequent correction that said that riprap was no longer going to be used. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I don't know if Chris is still on the line and willing to answer that question. It's still on the project plans.
Yeah, actually, Chris, yep, your hands. You can go ahead and respond, Chris, if you'd like. Chris Grubble, you can unmute your line.
Yeah, I've been trying to raise my hand a couple times, but I'm not sure how this format works. That was removed. There have been like several iterations, 7 formal submittals, and this is like maybe 10 or 12 iterations between Robin and I, and that was removed. I don't know if it showed up on the application in and of itself, but that was stipulated too that would be removed. We would not need riprap, and the riprap again is only at the discharge of the required open bottom culvert that EGLE wanted, where it would discharge to the stream to prevent erosive forces, and that's the only place. It's not like a shoreline riprap notion.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Another part of the question was, do we know if groundwater will be affected? Even today, there's standing water in the area that was previously matted. So Robin, are you aware of any groundwater impacts?
We evaluate groundwater as it relates to potential draining or loss of ability to percolate into the groundwater. Regarding like contaminants or anything like that, that's not part of my review. I'm not aware of any issues in the area. I don't know if they're speaking to holding tanks being in this area or not. That's just unfortunately outside my review.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to ask these next few questions here quickly. Is this permit, if this permit is approved, does the applicant, if the permit is approved, does the applicant, it's kind of worded weird, if approved, will the applicant be able to do anything else to fill in this wetland? Meaning bring in fill for driveways or parking. So will they be able to continue to bring in more fill to do more things?
Right. So as I mentioned, their original permit expired, and we've provided notification to the property owner and their attorney and agent that the permit has expired. There are no extensions available. So any additional wetland impacts on the property that aren't being reviewed for this project may not be done because they don't have a permit currently for any other projects, and EGLE's still evaluating this project, and we have not yet made a decision on the project. It's to be done by May 1st.
Okay. And this one right here, has the groundwater level at the placement point for the septic tanks been determined? Do you know if they've done that, or is that more of a health department question?
Yes, that's more of a health department question. Yes.
Okay. So that's something that the health department has to review. And are wetland requirements being met? Kind of already touched on this. Setback, fill, excavations, impact to neighboring properties, etc.
Yeah, that's all being evaluated as part of this application.
Right. Okay. Got a question here about the address that's listed on the application materials. The original application showed 55 South Nanagosa. And it says even now it's showing 1425 Nanagosa, which is also incorrect. The residence is on North Drive. Does it prevent notice in any way? So is there already, seems like there's confusion about the address that's on the application materials?
Yeah, I've certainly noticed that this is a comment that folks have brought up during the public notice period, and all I can use is the information provided by the applicant. I also checked the Leelanau County equalization information, and I don't see anything that shows that it's on Nor Drive. So I guess, you know, the applicant, we rely on them to provide us with correct information. So I don't have anything to show that it's not the 1425 South Nanagosa.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what we have to work with. Okay, we're at 6:30 and just a little bit after. And so we do have a comment here, but that's not really a question. So this person that typed this one in might want to make it as a comment regarding landfill, or it might not landfill, but fill. So just to let you know that we are going to now move into the official comment period. So I want to thank you all for good questions. They started to really roll in once we get started. So thank you all for asking those questions. And at the end of tonight, I'll provide some information on if you have additional questions, who to go to and how to contact Robin directly about that. So with that, thank you all for your questions. We're going to move into the official comment period now. And so up on your screen, you're going to see other ways to make an official comment. If you don't want to do it tonight, you feel like you're not comfortable making it, online to everybody, there's other ways to do that. Joel's going to put these into the chat as well. You can access via My Enviro. There's a link there. You can click on that link, and it will. You can basically just type your comment in and submit it right through our system. And you provide your comments directly by accessing the public hearing event under submission HPX-5EG9-SRQVM. I know it's a lot. We're going to put it in the chat for you. You can also, if you'd rather, mail your comment in to the EGLE Water Resource Division Cadillac District Office at 120 West Chapin Street in Cadillac, Michigan. And the comment period, just to remind you, it's keeps on going after the hearing tonight. It'll be open for 10 days, which is March 29th, 2024. And Joel's going to put that information into the chat for you all so you can see it there. All right, I'm going to turn over to Robin, and she's actually going to read our official hearing statement. And so this is kind of long, so this is the official statement we have to read to get it kicked off. So Robin, go ahead.
All right, good evening. My name is Robin Schmidt. I'm the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I will be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission HPX-5EG9-SRQVM. With me tonight is Joseph Haas, district supervisor. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide your comments, and we will spend a majority of tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read a closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resource Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Public Act 451, as amended. We are here tonight because Betsy Davis has proposed the following: install a 45-foot long by 2.5 foot wide by 2.5 foot high by 3 foot wide box culvert enclosure to create isolation distance for proposed septic holding tanks. Utility line with conduit sleeve and a pump chamber impacting an unnamed stream and wetland. The pump chamber is in the wetland. The remainder of the activities also impact a stream. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301 in the Lakes and Streams and Part 303 Wetlands Protection of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act 1994, Public Act 451 as amended. In general, we must consider the effects of the proposed project on the stream and wetlands. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 in the Lakes and Streams of NREPA, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 and Rule 4 of Part 301. 1, the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. 2, the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303 Wetlands Protection of NREPA, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 303.11 of Part 303, which states a permit for an activity listed in Section 303.04 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful. 1, a permit shall not be issued unless it's shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. And 2, a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following: A, the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in the wetland, and B, a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the project and application an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is by law not allowed to base our decisions on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Leelanau Enterprise March 7th, 2024 edition. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. 2, we will then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on all of those who raise their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they already haven't been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the My Enviro portal, email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time is ended. I ask that we be courteous and respectful to each other tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the record regarding the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit for the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing ending on March 29th of 2024. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a denial letter. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE MyEnviro portal website and searching for application number HPX-5EG9-SRQVM. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Just want to remind people that and you already heard my little bell. Sorry, Robin, I introduced you. I interrupted you with that. But yeah, so we get when you guys registered, you might have checked the box to say you wanted to make an official comment. And I have my list here, and I'll be calling off those names first. When we do call you up, make sure you restate your name in case I get it wrong. And any affiliation or association you might be representing, make sure you let us know that. You'll be given 4 minutes, and you will see a little clock that's going to pop up on my screen. It'll also pop up in the corner of your screen that you're looking at right now. And when you have 1 minute left, you'll hear a little dinger like that. That means you have 1 minute left, and you should probably start wrapping her up. And with that, I am going to start calling names. So like I said, I'll call the person that's up and the person that's up and on deck as well, so you can be ready to have your line unmuted. All right, so the first person I have up that said they want to make a comment is Pete Stott, and after that, it's Jeannie Aldrich. So Pete, looks like you are there, and you can unmute your line and get started.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, hey, thanks for the opportunity to have the public hearing. I know there's been a fair amount of attention paid, both by the owner of the property and as well citizens in the area. I wanted to start off by, first of all, saying, I'm a little bit disappointed that this project was approved in the first place. I don't mean to be critical here, but the fact of the matter is it clearly meets your criteria being called a wetland, and therefore should have certain activities avoided on that property, all of which are likely to take place on this property and cause future damage. But now that, once this permit is put in place, it's going to create a cascade of, I think, further damage to the area. And you can see the damage in the past. I mean, the client has violated the permit that was issued for constructing the mat, an area approximately 3 times that that was allowed. 3 times the allowed space was torn down. I think there's significant concerns about the bottomless culvert. That area frequently overfloods, and it concerns, I think, local citizens that that's going to create a potential still further erosion in the area. Also, extending 45 feet eliminates approximately 45 feet of a wetland area. And that wetland area is an important service to the Great Lakes area. And I know that once a project like this, is given a permit to move forward, it has the potential of, creating what I'll call unnatural acts. I would challenge, Robin, that the area where they want to place those tanks really is not an upland area. That is a greatly saturated area. And some of that may be groundwater. But at any rate, the ability to install 3 tanks in that area and not have them significantly above grade or above groundwater is going to be, I think, a significant issue. I've also taken a look at the property, and the way I look at it, the space that is going to be required for both the parking area and the tanks is not going to be is not going to provide sufficient clearance to the culvert. So at the end of the day, I'm concerned about the entire project, the way it's been handled, and what's likely to happen to that wetland area if the project is allowed to go forward. I'm pretty confident that citizens in the area would be willing to help restore that area to a more natural state prior to the previous development. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'll put some clarifying comments in via writing. Thank you.
I muted myself, sorry. Thanks for your comment. All right, so next person we have up is Jeannie Aldrich. Then after that is Linda Shalat, or Shalat or Shalat. So Jeannie, looks like we can see you there. You should be able to.
Okay, I'm ready for my close-up. Thank you. Thank you so much for having this hearing as well. And Robin, it's great to see you. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, this is I'm going to be stating facts here and not emotions. Even though I've been walking by this property for 24 years, I know every tree on the property on my street. They all have barcodes in my very good memory. However, I do want to quote some officials from the watershed of Traverse City, Michigan, an organization that has been in business for 30 years, and their job is to protect the water in the western part and all parts, particularly the Grand Traverse Bay. And this piece of information is from Heather Smith, who did in fact look at the permit, and she is stating, a minimum isolation distance of 50 feet shall be maintained from surface water or other surface waters. Now, I am under the understanding that the bottom of these tanks must be above water level. That lot is soaking wet. I walk on it. I've walked on it for years. It's soaking wet up to my ankles. For someone to put tanks on that lot, that means they require a landfill to hit a dry table. It will not happen. Those are going to be 20 feet or whatever. It's not 3 to 5 feet. I feel as if the property owner's measurements and their graphs and their drawings are completely sometimes inaccurate at the risk of offending anybody. And they're also inaccurate and very misleading. And I'm happy to hear, as I heard properly, that the health department has rescinded their permit. Maybe I misheard that. I'll have to, check on the validity of that as well. But also the watershed of Traverse City tells us it's an unacceptable disruption of aquatic resources and wildlife. So putting in a stream with this concrete box cover does not negate the distance between the septic tank and the surface water. You're going to have to get a very big ladder and a very big hill to go above the water level in that lot. I mean, I'm sure Robin has been there, but a lot of some of the other people who are green lighting this permit need to go down there and see, to clear that water level, you have to build a semi-Mount Everest, so to speak. But so the moral, and in addition to that, the septic tanks, for me, as I'm seeing this now, and the measurements, by the way, in the property owner's drawing, I want to repeat this again, are somewhat inaccurate and misleading, very misleading. So here's the deal. Let's pretend the tanks do go through. There is not enough distance from those tanks to the property line next door owned by another individual. So it's just a complete squeeze down there. And the big mounds disrupting the stream. There has already been, the property owner has downed trees and has blocked one stream already going into a neighbor's property. There's trees laying all over this property down there. I'm not familiar if they got permits or not for that, but it is a devastation and evisceration of wildlife, aquatic life and blocking that stream into the neighbor's lot was just absolutely horrible. And, you know, the disregard for authority and the topography. So this is my legal opinion from the watershed in Traverse City. And Robin, I think, has a copy of this. And hopefully, again, the health department has rescinded their permit on this particular situation and project. Thank you so much for letting me provide some input.
All right, thank you for your comment. Okay, next person we have up is Mark Forbes, and then after Mark is going to be Matthew Vermetten. Just checking to see if Mark.
Jim, didn't you say Linda Charlotte was next?
I'm sorry, Linda. Go ahead. Yeah, Linda Charlotte. I'm sorry, I skipped her. Is Linda in? Oh, there she is. Okay, Linda, sorry about that. You can go ahead and mute your mic.
Well, that's fine. And it is Linda Charlotte. I'm a neighbor. I'm just representing, you know, what I feel like the neighborhood would want to have considered. But it's news to me that the health department has reconsidered the permitting for the tanks, the septic holding tanks. And that was my big concern, just the groundwater level. So I will defer and submit my comments by writing, but I did love the reference to Sunset Boulevard.
Okay, thank you, Linda. All right, now we've got Mark Forbes is up next, and then after that is Matthew Vermetten. So Mark, you can go ahead and unmute your line and make your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name's Mark Forbes. I'm a homeowner on Nanagosa Trail and have been since 2009. I walk down that street quite regularly, and the overall area from a common sense standpoint is a wetlands. And my comments are about the cumulative impact onto that wetlands. If you have to look at the type of stewardship that's being taken on that property, just the timbers, construction matting that was put through there, and the trees that were taken down from the road to the lake shore doesn't indicate to me that that property, that wetlands, has been very well taken care of. From a cumulative standpoint, if you're going to put in holding tanks, all the disruption and the equipment that has to be involved in putting those in place, the same thing with the culvert, the same thing with the parking area. You'll have the same thing with putting in a well and then putting in the pilings for the actual property. And if you put all those things together on that very small lot, you've actually destroyed all the wetlands. And I in no way believe that putting in a culvert replaces the job that an existing stream and wetlands filter provides for the West Bay. I also have questions, and this isn't for EGLE, but I do have questions about the setbacks, because the utility setbacks from the center line of the road are 33 feet. And the holding tanks that they're talking about would encroach on that. And you also have setbacks from the adjacent property owners, which are a minimum of 15 feet. And those holding tanks would encroach on that as well. And should those holding tanks be above ground, they would have to have a berm placed around them. And putting in backfill on a berm does not facilitate the purpose of a wetlands. So again, my concern is the overall impact on that as a wetlands, and just getting to do the minimum that the permittee is requesting will destroy that wetlands property. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your comment tonight. Okay, up next is Matthew Vermetten. Then after that is Christopher Grobel. So Matthew, looks like you are unmuted, so you can go ahead.
All right. Good evening. Thank you very much for having this forum. Appreciate it. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I will defer to Dr. Grobel for his comments. I believe he's right after myself, and we will submit our responses and commentary in writing within the next 10 days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so up next is Christopher Grobel, and then the last person on my list after Christopher is Julie Dean. So Christopher, yep, there you are again. You can go ahead and unmute your line and make your comment.
Yeah, thank you. And again, just to kind of summarize, the project was permitted by both the state and the county. And the idea here would be to get to a point where we can reconstitute those permissions and those permits, and that anything in terms of hydrology, we can work with the agencies to do that.
Okay, is that your comment?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and Christopher, can you again, for the record, state your name and who you're with?
Yeah, Dr. Christopher Grobel, Global Environmental and Planning Associates, Lake Leelanau. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Then the last person I have on my list here is Julie Dean. And Julie is here. Julie, you can go ahead and unmute your line when you're ready. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Julie Dean. I live above the property, and but I pass by it almost daily because I walk by it. I've watched the trees be taken down and the wood that had been put in those huge square pieces of lumber when they were installed, and in order to make the property ready for building. Though these things were done, the property sat most of the time underwater. I was very happy when the lumber was removed, and I thought that the project was at an end. The property is definitely a wetland, and in my opinion, should remain that way. I know that the owner bought the property to develop, and I'm sure got the property reasonably. They will undoubtedly lose money, and I feel badly for that. But when I see her property and I compare it to the association's property, which that property belongs in, and I belong to that same association, that the association's property is about a half mile further north. And that is much less of a wetland than her property is, which is standing in water. Many animals use this piece of property that are in the neighborhood. My neighbor has a webcam above and sees turkeys, fox, bobcats, porcupines, raccoons, a random bear who has haunted our neighborhood, and deer utilizing her property to get down to that piece of wetland. It is a path to the water for the animals there. We just saw deer just the other day when we were down there. They rely, okay, it's also, I see lots of different species of birds on the property. They rely on the wetland for food, water, and shelter, especially during migration and breeding. I am sure it is a home to many insects as well. Was a home to cattails and marsh marigolds until now they put in that wooden structure. I do not believe a permit should be given. This will not be the only part of the property affected to build a home there. A corridor will have to be built to bring building materials in. Land will be used for the home, a yard, possible storage for an outbuilding for boats or whatever, a driveway. And our association speaks to no parking on the street on a permanent basis. Please, for the animals, plants, insects, and organisms that live and use this property, do not grant the permit.
Okay, thanks for your comment tonight.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So that's the end of my list of people who, when they registered, said they wanted to make a comment. So at this point, what we're going to do is open it up to anyone else that hasn't made a comment yet, but would like to make a comment. If you'd like to make a comment, you can raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon. If you're calling it on the phone, you can hit #2, and that'll indicate to us that you'd like to make a comment over the phone. Again, that's #2. So if you'd like to make a comment at this point, if you haven't already, go ahead and click the raise hand icon. So we got a couple people online. The first one is David Wall, and after that is Craig Holm. So David will unmute you, and you can go ahead and make your comment. You should be unmuted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. My name's David Wall. I am probably the closest year-round resident to this location. I noticed on the application when they identified potentially impacted neighbors that they only listed ones up on the top of the hill, about 100 feet up and maybe at least a quarter to a half mile away. But I wanted to concur with the other residents of the neighborhood in describing this as clearly a wetland. I share their concerns about the destruction of it based on the drawings that have been submitted, which I agree with Ms. Aldrich are somewhat misleading when it comes to measurements. The property as it sits there, once the matting was removed, is basically in standing water, even in areas 10, 15, 20 feet from the stream bed. I appreciate the fact that Ms. Schmidt went to the site to view it. I think it becomes pretty obvious once you actually look at it that it would constitute an unacceptable impact on a natural resource. I'd also be concerned with sort of any domino effect of approving a project like this, but overall, I agree with and would concur with the other neighbors as to the effect this would have on the wetlands and the state of the property as it's been described here. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David, for your comment tonight. Okay, the only other person who's got their hand raised at this point is, oh, we got a couple more. Okay, Craig Holmes. So Craig, should be able to unmute your line. Craig, if you're there, you can just hit that.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. First of all, I'm old. I'm 85 years old. I've lived on Nanagosa Point, Nanagosa Trail, whatever you want to call it, for the last 55 years. I watched all these houses being built. I watched all my neighbors apply for and get permits or not get permits for septics. I walk my dog every day. I've done it for years and years past this piece of property. It's an absolutely rape of that property, what they've done. They put a corduroy road all the way down to the water to start with, and then cut all the trees and hired a group of people who probably are competent, but were under instructions to clear the property. It was a great insult to me that that was done. And I find it very disrespectful that we're even in a position where we have to have a public hearing over an area that is certainly and couldn't be looked at any other way as wetland. When I hunted down there with my dogs years and years ago, you wore hip boots because it was full of water, and it's still full of water. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Craig, for your comment tonight. Okay, is there anybody else here tonight that'd like to make a comment? And I do see a couple of hands raised, but there are people who have already made a comment tonight. And so if you already made a comment, we'll just take one comment per person tonight. All right, I got Stephen Benedict, who's raised his hand. So Stephen, if you're there, we can unmute you and you can unmute your line on your end. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not as old as Craig Holmes, and I haven't been here as long, but as long as we have been here, we've walked down past that property constantly all the time because it's such a beautiful area to walk. And I'm not an environmental scientist, and I'm not an attorney, but I have common sense and I know what reason is. When I look at that property, I don't understand why it would even anybody could even want to develop that, because it is 100% a wetland. I don't think I've ever been on that property where I haven't gotten my ankles wet. And I worry about if this permit is approved, what else will be done? Because there was a lot more done on the other permit that was approved that shouldn't have been done. The lot is just, it's been torn up. It's a mess. It should not be developed. And I wonder if she gets this permit, what else will be done? Will they be bringing in fill for a parking area? How about utilities? They're going to have to bring in underground electric, underground gas, underground cable. They're just going to make a mess out of that property, much more so than has been done. And I agree with Pete when Pete said that the neighbors would get together and to restore that as best we could to the shape that it was before anything was done to it. And this neighborhood just loves that area. They love this trail, and we will do that. Like I said, I'm just a nobody really who lives here, and I do not want to see this permit approved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment tonight. Okay, I'll leave it open just for another few seconds. If anyone who has not made a comment yet tonight would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, you can hit #2. And just a reminder, if you already made a comment tonight, if you want to add more or provide more details to a comment, provide another comment, you can always do so, and we'll explain how to do that online or via mail. Okay, I'm not seeing any other people that have not commented yet with their hand raised, so I am going to turn it back over to Robin. So Robin, you can go ahead and read our closing statement.
Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until March 29th of 2024. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all the comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments may be submitted via the MyEnviro portal, email, or via US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Robin. And I did just see something come in that someone else had wanted to make a comment officially, but they did not, they had their hand raised. So I'm actually going to go to that person. We have closed it, but I'm going to open it back up to allow this person to comment. They were just right under a different name. So I think it's Sue Stott. Sue, are you there under the Pete Stott's name? I apologize for that. You can go ahead and make a comment still.
Thank you, sir. This is Sue Stott, and Pete and I are sharing a computer because we both couldn't be on our own computers. I just wanted to emphasize that, and I heard it spoken several times, but I do see this and am very concerned as this is a potential for a gateway to other projects. Once, if this permit is approved, there's the potential that it will lead to additional projects, additional permits being requested. And once things get flowing, I'm very concerned that, again, the property will be further destroyed. And I just wanted to articulate that as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thanks for letting me know through the question box that you were on the line. I apologize for that. All right, so Robin has read our official closing statement. I do want to just remind people that, again, if you have more comments you'd like to make, if you know of somebody else that wants to make a comment, there's other ways to do it. You can do it through My Enviro. That's our portal system that we have online. You just provide a comment to My Enviro by accessing the public hearing event under submission. Because we do have someone on the phone, I'll read off the submission number slowly here. It's HPX-5E as in echo, G9 SRQVM. You can also make your comment if you'd like to. You can mail it to us. You can send it to EGLE at Water Resources Division, Cadillac District Office, 120 West Chapin Street, at CHAPIN Street, Cadillac, Michigan, 49601. And the comment period is open until March 29th. If you have questions, you can reach Robin. That's her phone number up on the screen, 231-383-5952. Or you can email her at schmidtr1, that's SCHMIDTR1 at michigan.gov. So that's how you reach Robin if you'd like to. All right, I'm gonna turn over to Joe. Joe, do you have any, we haven't heard from you. Any closing comments for us?
Yeah, just real quick. Thanks, everybody. I want to thank everybody. You guys know your neighborhood, your community, your local conditions better than anyone. Public participation is important in our decision making, and we appreciate you taking the time to participate. Again, thank you.
All right, thanks, Joe. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. I know sometimes this takes a lot out of your schedule to make time to make an official comment and to listen in for these things. And we do appreciate you and appreciate all your comments that you provide to us tonight. Very thoughtful. Just a reminder, after the meeting, you will be getting an email since you attended with some follow-up information from us. You will also, we have a recording of this, we post it up on our YouTube channel. So if you know somebody in neighborhood or area that missed tonight's meeting and wants to watch it, maybe before they want to make an official comment, it's up on our YouTube channel, and that you'll also get a link to that in the next couple of days. If you just search under EGLE YouTube, EGLE YouTube, you should be able to find it under our latest videos. You'll see it up there the next couple of days. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.